Donga mebe dewa damba dang mendo Nyedan dawe danyam chimbo la nebre jurje Semchen tamche dewa dang dewe jana damba jurje Donga dang donga je jana chalura jurje Donga mebe dewa damba dang mendo jurje nyere chadan nyedan dawe danyam chimbo la nebre jurje Semchen tamche dewa dang dewe jana damba jurje Donga dang donga je jana chalura Donga mebe dewa tamba dam mendawa yoshe nyera chadan yedan dawe tanyam chimbo la ne yorje kanche sencho na shenro la ne ma da ra dana shino jen dang dang no re wo jen ma ba sin da so wa ne be na no ga yan da kanche na par ge ro shang rab de yi ge ri guan zhe ma ga yan ba de da tam je da ba tam be guan je de be song nian she dan de xia Adang Naman Madam Chiang Adang Joshan Lasso Chicken Chong Shavajivan Sanji Song Arab the Shisha Divi and the Shaki Tami Chunya Shin the Hia Divi Joshan and the Renja Saviti Java Tunji Shiba Delan Cho the Tajan Kubai and the Vin of Vinya Shajan Tajan Suyoman Angutana Nuberta TV Sonya Lai Gadon the Nujanka Juma Dodam Mekanon Rua Kanji Takachazam Tanche Gada Darga Chudando. Oh, yeah. Tangasu Niman Iva Tela Tsema Dang Tsami Iva Desu Chishare. That this chicksora door dini, chick dom dawa jamni, chickshina transo.
So, in the second day of our teaching, we talked about the valid cognition and some differences. And today we're going to talk a little bit about those in summary.
Tatela ngasu tijin tsama se kadiyana sonkadiyovati shiva tsama dire.
So when we talk about the epistemology or validity, and the validity that we are talking about is the valid cognition or the validity of the cognition.
The Shiva Tsama Seondi Karsangasu Shiati Tanda Dom Dawa Jamnishina Korangi Shiva Ti Yurti Dingmala Mahiva Sardu Hi Shiva Nanshin Mulavas Chadayona Koran Gurkur Tamadovas. So Shiva Nanshin Dolan Niva. Then there is Chadona, then the Shiva Dela.
So, then what is the valid cognition? If we have to talk about this in a summary or make it very easier to understand, then the valid cognition is that when we understand things clearer than before, which is non-deceptive and which has no mistaken views, then that we can know it as a valid cognition.
Tatela Yevati Yansur Dom Daw Javna, Monsum Jitsamadan, Jespabitsama, Seti Nire.
And if we dissect it in two sections, then there are two valid cognition. The first one is the direct valid cognition, and the second one is indirect valid cognition.
Tinani in Monsum Samadi Karsangasu Shere, Tela Nansigia, Yeva She, Ambung Monsum Jitsama, Yiki Monsum Jitsama, Nanjung Monsum Jitsama, rāng ngōsum jī tsāma sēni. O ngōsum je chōngriwa.
So, even in that two valid cognition, if we go deeper, then in the direct valid cognition, we talked about the four essential one, which is the first one is direct sense perception, second one is mental direct perception, third one is yogic direct perception, and the fourth one is direct perception of the self-cognizer or self-direct cognition.
다드네 디노니 어묵원송지 참마디 칼상가수 메가 어묵원송지 참마 데시 기바노 시아비고니 데니 마르도도 치니 직시레.
So when we discussed about the direct sense perception last time, we especially emphasized on the eyes consciousness, and then we described all the other one accordingly.
다텔라 타마타마 돔자오니 까라 아무건성의 참마세디에 만트와 말라와직 녀깔리 카보로 땅가서 돌랑치로 캐나츠야 당건성의 참마 미히데 데솔라 이치셔라 제토고 만둑송어와 다 아무건성 참마세디 배신하는 샤케요와 단다 찬르기 샤케요와 대소 직바도 샤케요레 데니 칭원디가 디랑전데 가서 하고원디가 텔라양 샤라 예치체트바레 만두 세지 다 가상 가서 탐이 돔데 데리 차서.
So when we were talking about the direct sense when we were talking about the direct sense perception, and we also discussed about our eyes consciousness and all, the basic thing is when we are non-mistaken about the view or non-mistaken about the things that we see, so we can say that as a direct sense perception. But when we discuss about it, at that time we realized that we cannot really trust our own senses as well, because we have a lot of examples we said that time. So when we discuss, we figure out in some ways that it's a little difficult to really give a subtle reason or valid reason to have a direct sense perception as purely valid. It was a little difficult for us.
가상가수 변나지 즉발라 드니 촌도만다와 답 파쇼디 즉바다오이나 촌도 직바 디게 연케요와 직라 오자 땅가타니 카히데스 낙세요바도 카히데스 사르세요바도 다텐디도 지금 통원데 대소 트요사레 마레세니 제란수 삼노땅 다히치용데 테네 다징 트메바지 예 깔리 카포도 지 옌바 나서 란 트소한다고 차서.
For example, last time when we were having our class, we discussed about the color of the wall, and there were various projection because of the some place of the wall there was light, and some place of the wall was a little bit dark. Somewhere we see little vivid color, somewhere it was a little darker. So when we discussed, and we came to conclusion that it was little difficult to perceive the wall itself as it is, and it was clear at that time.
테네 기란수 데리지 히아파도지 데네 온데 땅가서 특파 전부 까올라 테네 메카 온원선 나요 온원선 라소바 데서 참마 마레 세니 송샤요바티 기란수양 데리지 연사레 삼비 기란수 고와 렌탄탄 특파 전부 종데 시야자바티 직바다워직 랩송아 데 네고네 yana 대 야고 정성으로 찬성.
So when we had that examination, we came up with the idea that was not so clear for us to say that's a direct sense perception. And according to the Mahayana itself as well, they consider this direct sense perception or yogic sense perception, these things as not a tsema or not a direct valid cognition. And from my own perspective as well, if I see it somewhere, I feel the same. So I think we are all in the same conclusion.
다때네 가서 가서 직시하게다비 접던라고 세나리 타주고 고던라고 세나리 대 어묵원성 까블라 어묵원성 참마셰비 까블라 드리라고 지 차요라.
So yesterday when we had a discussion or what we come with the result or the understanding is that how we saw the direct sense perception. And that was our conclusion.
다때네 얘기 원성이 참마세데레 대 젠칸 요레 마젠칸 요레 카히 요레 송고 요레 카히 드니 켈레케 요마레 간타장 니테나고 도도라고 지금 영어서 서 돔라고 지잖아 카히 요레 송야데 미히게 열렀다 심비깔라 이힐라요 파쇼즈크디 샤르타고 요레스 갑툭라 샤르타고 요레스 덴지 샤르다 요가 이히지 요레 송고 요레 띵아수 드리지 파타용이 깔라 지 알랭알 니절라 드린 도와 삼바로 샤라 코토쿠만도 얘나 만두 삼바로 제 하고만도 어디 카사로로 착토쿠만도 어텐디다고 지그레 이긴 원숨세데.
And talking about the mental direct perception, there are so many various saying about that as well. Some people agrees that there is a direct mental perception, and some says that there is no direct mental perception. And even when we look at the things, sometimes we feel like, or if we see something directly, we feel like we know it or we see it as it is. And we feel like we know it. And sometimes, even though we see it, we feel like we don't know it. So in some ways, it's a little bit not so clear as well.
Tene tan nanjong ngosomre. Nanjong ngosom de kharsa nge ts shure kenan su trawa treson. Ta sor don do do chi ona perna omajanton re chagya chembo re tisu kavla dorna sosu gela tene nis maybe yehi chi yobade sor ngonde gertak sosu ngusun tong tabonde de tawi tongwi hi dela nanjong masam se.
So we also discussed about the yogic direct perception, and we also had some question about it. Now, if we have to summarize it and talk about it, the Mahamudra or Madhyamika text, this says that when one has the non-dualistic or non-mistaken views, then we can explain it as a yogic direct perception.
대 배라고 당하셔 시원아 당하만 가서 안동건 가기비 기회 담바 대수 되네 차자체 뭐 결성 송야다 되네 조성 송야지 연구 요가티 코난비 두결라 남적 모습 기바 텐지레 되요래.
For example, if we say that the Mahasiddhas from the Kayuba traditions, the direct yogic perceptions come when one goes beyond the cyclic existence or one becomes realized, then they have that perception of the yogic direct perception. We can understand it in that way.
Tansang yana ta chokasa kala dukha mangore duba nyamlen nangkan mangore ti nalo la tindige nyam tong thong da yoba yosare ta yana ya nyam tong usun thong yong kan desu ngala nyam tong thong song dendi rendu soni lukson da chimandu te soma da wo chindu ga chire chadwa.
So even if we talk these days, there are so many retreat center and retreat places. And there might be siddhas or mahasiddhas who have realized the direct yogic perception, or who have that view of direct yogic perception. But as this is not something that you go and share with others, that I have this kind of perception, it might be hidden somewhere and we don't know it.
Ta te tawi namja gonsum te gyolan thongdiga kon namba soyena ti gyola thonglam ki yore thongi lam sene demba thongi lam se de ki yore.
So when the masters or the mahasiddhas who have that realization, then they have that yogic direct perception, who can see things in a way which is non-mistaken.
Ta tela yang mandawi iwa yong yo sare gom janghan ti so korwi ni dali thar sona samba tendege kolon chek ta ne gom gya tende cheni papi hi de ngon de kyor sona tene ji nyang thun thonlam ba tende chang ro yo sare ta tende ma yem ba simchen thamche ge ton de simchen jan de so le kyang ji bar song simchen thamche ge ton de sang ji ji ko ma drab go gon ne drwa nyam len chi ne te ta wi hi de ngon de kyor sona tene thakpa chembu thonlam thok yo sare.
So even if we go on details about the yogic direct perception, then the one who expect to be liberated from this samsara and practices all these meditations and rituals, when he gets realization, he might have the realization of the hinayanas, or lower realm, or lower perception in a way. But when one has the higher thought of liberating sentient beings from the world, and if they go with the practice and meditation, when they realize the direct sense perception, they might have a greater yogic perception. And for that reason, the bodhicitta plays a huge role there.
Ta changchuk sem ku kork manga ti ta tanda changchu changchuk chemo yawa Karmapa rang song da yowa ti changchuk sem ku manga senare sonrab senare danga sena dorna tan chod de kwa cha da yore deso ngama changchuk sem kor song ja ba deso da dong yang ne yang de nyan ta ko da de nyaya yor wa la do ro tende yong de tende na na pe ke chemore.
So when we talk about this bodhicitta, our great master, His Holiness the Gyalwang Karmapa, is teaching us the Bodhicharya Avatara, which is his words, his wisdom, his kind words. When we listen to those words of bodhicitta again and again, that will definitely have an immense benefit. That's why we have to pay closer attention when His Holiness shares about that bodhicittas.
Te na jeng ge kiwa tamba mau song sha pi ta ta sa dra nya ya yore te so la te si ge so te so khom de te so rang jang chi san na pe ya hu yore sam gu.
And just as our His Holiness shares his wisdom, if we can get the teachings or the wisdom or the text from the great masters, then, and if we practice those teachings again and again, or we can practice it as a rituals in a ways, that can be beneficial for us.
다 나랑 저원 손나 nga 장주 심바지 말에 대답이 로장 용칸 지다 망아 용칸 지 말에 다 옛나야 배셔도 로 망어 지 다샤비 점상가 다 대스 지 칸이셔야 잠지 마마 로 머밍 마마 대소라 로 카히그랑라 다 장주 sem 고르데 쪼다고 지니 망어지 시에요레 다 대소양 단다 잔냐야 차상 라다 요레 다 제체나 대스대세 다 가서 양 파서 뭐시바도 조포도 차도데 양 조포도 희기 따니 기나서 대스 직년 탐나 다야 측레레 니레 대스 펜토야 용서 그리고
So if I have to talk about myself, then I'm not a bodhisattva, I'm not a great master, I'm not that learned master, but as I have got the opportunity to read or practice the text for a very long period of time, and that's my luck. I have heard about the bodhicitta again and again from very long time, and as we are in a way like a friend, I'm sharing these words to you. When I'm sharing it, it might benefit you in some ways. So please take it in that way.
다 남정원성 깔라 된지다고 라인
So that was it for the yogic direct perceptions.
다 되니 제와데 라르 원섬 세데리 라르 원섬 세데 다 가서 랑게 시바데 가서 랑가 가서라 학고시 증독 삼반도 가서 랑 냠냠 또니 학고시 용거도 다데 라르 원섬 또그 용거 요래 시바 코랑 그 코랑 냠스 용거 요래 된데 제가 되네 라르 시그레 소니다 라르 젠칸테수 된데 다오직 송요래.
And the fourth one is the direct perception of self-cognizance. And if we have to explain about it, then the self-cognition is that when one perceives the perception itself or sees which is being perceived, that we can explain it as a direct perception of self-cognizance.
다 라르그 코텔라 자극 반트단 넘버를 거기 되는 기반 넘버를 대수 파스 직직라 쪼바 자자바 르파탄자바 하자망오레 다 얘나요 다 대수네 그 셔멀고 와치나 륵사레 상근도
And explaining more about the direct perception of self-cognition, there were masters who were debating about the ideas, and there are examples of those things. But as of now, it feels like we don't have to share much about it.
다 텔라서 돔라고 지겨나 원섬 세텔라 제 요비 노니 다 가수 야샤가 예치 제 초사티 난정 원섬 되네 마원 바나야 소수 직 돈데 녀야 대양 소수 gel라 난정 원섬 세티 끼야가 레와치야 다서 돈 도도로 지나 된지 차거도.
And now, when we talk about this four direct perception, among the four direct perception, if one has to believe 100%, then that one is the yogic direct perception. Because yogic direct perception is something which we can aspire for, and when we aspire to be aspire to have that quality or the perception, then when we reach that level, at that time we can realize other perception, which is told out here. So this one we have a great hope.
다 디가 Tsema la ngonsum tsema da jes ba wi tsema. Ngonsum tsema la je song ya tie so ta sur dom do gyam na tendi do chi insare tangkindu.
So there are two valid cognition, right? One is direct valid cognition, another is indirect valid cognition. And if we describe the direct valid cognition, then the things that we discuss above are the thing which is in the direct valid cognition. So summarizing it, I think that's it for now.
Ta ngasu terang shya ka sabapati jiba tsamare.
And today what we are going to discuss is the indirect valid cognition.
Ta jiba tsama se te la tsama kunti na lo la jiba namni chik song yore chik de kharsa ni drunga se chi yore se te re te la jandan jiba song yore te jiba ngoni wa mare tane randan jiba song ya te jiba ngoni wa te re te jiba tsama re tende yon de jiba namni randan sarsam tali ton thong wo sarsam tsami ten sik chigla tene donda de ha ko song chigla jiba tsama re sen song yore.
So today we're going to discuss about the indirect valid cognition. We talked a bit about the indirect valid cognition yesterday as well, but today we're going to talk in details. And if we have to understand it in a simple way, then when we understand the thing by seeing the supporting factors, then that can be known as the indirect valid cognition.
Tene kharsan shiva nangzhari ten tsig rikpa siye te sosu jang ne peche tong tabya siye te siye yakho chik jang ya te rikpa yakho yo na lo chik sosu marto chang mata banda wo chirtang ne tendi chik re ten tsig peche tong ya chik waro.
So, as we discussed yesterday or the day before yesterday, logic reasoning, learning it and using it is very important. When we learn, we have to make a use of it. So, utilizing the logic reasoning is an important thing.
Ta tene tanda tagyang da la tene niluk chik hako se de perna phagala me loyo na gari chini se onde towa jong shimbare duwa na labna ata ngone yosare tamba chik lep kuduwa chirtani ten tsik kwa se de ten rawo chik re pe rawo samla tana o te tawo chik shak hoyo.
So when we say that the correct sign, when we see the correct sign, then we realize what that thing is. For example, there is a fire. When someone says there is a fire, because we see the smoke, that's why there is a fire. That's how we see.
Ta te gyunga ngasu kare se de keshe shebi kaula ngasu rang peche tong shimba chigre.
These are the things actually we are using it when we are having a general conversation in regular days actually.
Peche tong tang te sama rikpa wa sinare toki rikpa wa te so korang su kanit nangko se de sanskrit tang inare boke ki tang de so la korang la mixer ki tsikdrap chik yore. Ta te tsikdrap te tega ra manchu kwa chik tang ni peche tang ni tsoba tsok yore chik chik la yumsan shaak yore te rotang chik re.
In the Pramana Vartrika or other texts, there are books like in the language of Sanskrit, sometimes in Sanskrit language, sometimes in Tibetan language, they have a specific words where they can discuss and debate about the Tsema.
다 이나 양 나랑 수티긴 깨셔셔비 까라 돈다테 나랑 수양 텔라 페치 땅게 요르세나 페치 땅 심바레세나 초게지 그래.
However, while we were learning the text, we were also using those words as a basis to debate.
근데 지금 내가 돈다테 가서 하고도 같이 미 데리데리세네 파밍 따야지 그래도요래. 지단샤나 깔리카보요 말이.
So actually those words that we use is to understand the meaning, and if we look closely, it's not so difficult.
당가서 대기한 거 이제 시험이 까라 배나 잘라지 약보 요래라나 가르치니 세실 랩거도 대리 정원에 가르치니 세용되고 다 내리래 센데시 랩거도 다 된다고 지그래 돈다 술 도도라고 지나 디 나라 댄스 배치 따네 되네 소수결라 로정 레야데 랩거도 요래.
So in the normal days as well, for example, when we have one thing, then we describe it as this is so good. If we say something like this, someone else will ask, why? Why is this so good? The question will come there, and the one who is showing this object will describe, this is so good because this has this feature, this, that. So we explain it. So these are the things which is logic and the reasoning that we use to explain things.
답변나 된디 까라 뭐지 변나 카버드라고지 단디 약보 요래 셀라로 데 약보 요래 세데 라온데가 잠바티 가르치니 데 약보 요바데 가르치니 야나 삼거요로 다 콜라 데 약보 요바데 파 드립 세나레 점선 셰고요로 다 점선 셰용이 까라인데 조타 약보니 톤레스 데네 페나치 나로 쇼츠 침버레스 데네 로 디소 약보 데크레스 오텐데 셰온데 알레 다 약보 요사레 삼바지 렙거도 오 데데 쳔온데가 지니 셰야데 점선 세데 댄츠 세데.
For example, if one person shows the mobile phone and says this mobile phone is great or very nice phone, then someone else comes and asks, why this phone is so good? Then the person holding the phone says, this phone is so good because it is from the great company, it has a great feature, it has a great battery life, and this is amazing phone. And the other person thinks that, that makes him think, this is a great phone because it has a great feature, great battery, and great thing and all. So we feel and we accept what he just said. So in this way, we have that reasoning, or we discuss about the reasons behind it to support the fact.
다 드네 저버저비 갑다고야나 다 동법에나 네 어다 카버다고 지근데 빼 약보 열에 나와시 다 지난송알아 가르치니 약보 열에 세딩이 네 드네 통사데 약보렌도 형사 쳔본도 로트에서 약본 당근도 나오라 다 저버저비 갑다고나 다 지난송 삼노다래 통사 약보인 형사 쳔보요 로트에서 약보되나 잘라테 네퍼때 약보 지인 고도 말고 삼노단 거래.
Now, in debate, for example, if I say this mobile is great because this has a good battery, good feature, and a good backup of battery, if I say something like this, then you ask, why is it so? Now you have to think is it certain that having a great battery or having a great feature or having a great company itself makes this phone a great device? That's how you ask question.
Tatendo ina tandite sumbu bena tonsa yaku zoda yaku yin shonse yaku yo lok de so yaku deke na ta khabar de yaku yin gosare gosamare tate susamno chitani pas te shena.
So, if someone says this has a great company, great looks, great battery, and great feature, does that make this phone a good phone? So it's a time for you guys to discuss a bit. Maybe you can show some other device, and for that example, you can have a talk because it will be a new topic. For example, you can show your cup that you are holding and describe about it, and other person will ask. So we'll have some minutes for that. Please proceed.
Yeah. Tachik des. Sina, machik. The day our end of century love him.
So one of you please represent again and say how this just went. Excuse me, sir. Our technician is sleeping, huh?
Thank you. We talked about that to determine whether a phone is good or not good, then it depends on what we want to use the phone for. Yeah. So what is the goal of using the phone?
Actually, I didn't hear the word properly.
What is the goal of using the phone? What do we want to use it for?
Phone?
Yeah. What do we want to use the phone for?
Okay.
Yeah. So that the aim of using the phone is in influencing if the phone is good or not. Yeah. So if a table is unstable and we want to put something under the table to make it stable, and the phone is this thick and we only need this thick, then the phone is not good for that purpose.
nowadays we can find fires easily, right? But before, in the long time ago, if we have to make a fire, whether be it in Tibet, be it in India, we have to borrow the fire from someone else's house. If we want to burn a fire in our house, we have to borrow the fire from some other house. So how do you know that the other house has the fire? Sometimes you just go and ask, but even if you are not asking, to know that the house has a fire, we have to look at the signs. And one of the signs is when we see the smoke coming out from that house, we just realize that there must be a fire. And we go and ask and come back and we have the fire in here. So just like that, the question is when we have a question, if there is a fire in that house, that's the first question. And there is a sign. The sign is there is a smoke. When we see the smoke, for the reason there is a smoke, we can assume there is a fire. And we can believe, like when we see the smoke coming out from the house, we can believe and we can understand there is a fire. So this concept or this idea, we can know it as a Tsema or the indirect valid cognition. of essence, right? To show that, we have an example of the aggregates, or for this time you can know it as a body or aggregates. Aggregate is its impermanence and its momentary. So that's a essence of the aggregates.
당아서 포 맞다와 연반데 산지 점단데 되니 추송이 통마라 송아자바지 냥을린 다랑카양 타마라 송아자바 근데 배 가침보지 차하요래.
So when we talk about the aggregates or the body, Buddha himself stated this term impermanence in his first teaching, and also he stated the word of impermanence while he was having his Mahaparinirvana. So this one is very important.
다티 가라 산지 점단데 당아서 포 나타는데 까지 그때니 가니 인저토요레스 되니 제워서도요레스 마타바이레 송용디가 엄마 기왕 엄마 마원라 소소 박차 야포용 컨세나레 산지 점단데 랑가 그게 엄마 대소라 제스 송송이 엄마 대소 남상 원순던 통로요레.
So, this 5 aggregates is changing all the time. According to Buddha, he said that these 5 aggregates, whatever we have, is changing every single time and every single moment. And if you have a good karmic imprints from the past lives, then you can understand it, or you can see it properly, or you can see it directly.
다 소소기 원가와 대소 망원지 그따다 디가 가서 봉원데 로카신 로나등원이 만다와다고 지 창로도 말도 까지 생거지 대비연 차축주 된디 고샤파가 차레레라 제워서도 요라신 된데다 차 예나 삼바지 하다다디 엄마데 나셔 대대요 와도 통용데가 된디 장케 요사리.
So normal or lower beings or normal beings like us, we may see changes in years. If we see something or some people after few years, then we might see some changes in their body and physicality. But as we don't have that powerful sense, we don't see changes in moment to moment. We don't see momentary changes through our eyes.
단 그마이나 베나 로직 나올라 가서 속본데서라 결과를 요원 통통거요래. 근데 온데가 대나와제 서고짜잖아. 다와직라 만다와지 차거요래. 다와직 나올라야 베나 냐마레레라야 만다와 차도요래. 대 마차나 호도 근데 차요 말해. 근데 온데가 다 치치직나 karmachikna karchachikna tendre chini te mandawa chak yore sin rikpag tani ma tani drumni song yore.
So we see changes in a year. So the change that we see in a year does not come immediately in 1 year. It has to happen in 1 month and 1 week or 1 day and 1 hour and then 1 minute, 1 second, 1 millisecond. So it has to happen in that way. So there is no pinpoint that we can say it changes immediately after a year. So we can analyze it in that way as well.
Then chirava desu nalola matawa se de ngaso zukpo de ngapi kap pena khama do yen khama de shik songa ta ngo de gari pena forwa do yen chak songa dende kala de la matawa se ma to de jeng ge ko matawa re la ke yo ma re ta kang la ke yo se de pena lo je yo ro lo je do de so matawa re se ni constantly love that.
So according to non-Buddhist, they have a concept of impermanence itself. But their way of looking at the impermanence is when they see the house, and if the house collapses, that's impermanence. If they see a cup, and if that cup breaks down, then they say it's a impermanence. Or if they see the lightning from the sky, they say that's a impermanence.
That dansang rawa yana tsarik ba desu trechi gyuni cheher desu gyuni tani takhe chiyong de ta ngasu zukpo da phasho do rawo cha rawo dende che yana yang tani ditsu chund chasha chawa ngasu digen second chik de cha mo go shabi dende ge desu ge nalola 차선 제워 성도 나로 차선 제워 성도 아직 말도 되네 대대요 봐 직접 매바데 콘스 통고도 와 차선 제워 성도요 다 대가서 라단다 선지 좀다 된 한번 송아자가 대라 다 단다 찬르근 투지기 땅에 라야 고시고 승 쳤다가 어떤지 차도 대표게 쳔버래
Nowadays, the scientists have developed so much because of their advanced equipments and instruments, not only human, but they can also see the stone, metal, and they can dissect into the particles and atoms, whatever, and they can see that everything is changing out there. So that's such an advanced thing. But those statement of changingness of the nature, Buddha told us many years before. Now the scientists are validating those words or those teachings from the Buddha, and that's something which is very important to know.
Tatetawi matawa chamu nelu deso gomni papi koma tokre sungya sontan chikde chetamawa yoro chetamawa dawena matawa ra gomni papi koma matawa ngonsum de thong de tele papi koma tok yore sen o chetamawa de tini song yore.
So meditating upon the impermanence of nature or impermanence of phenomena, the Vaivasika, they get enlightenment through that practice, or they become arhat because of the practice of the impermanence.
Tani ta chamta jamba desu zowan papi koma to matu se de dame ne lu ngonsum thong ma do ma to matawa chamu yenaya de ngonsum de thong changum papi koma thobar chag mare so ya denje yang song sa mandawa yor.
And the other schools of philosophy says that only having the subtle understanding or subtle realization of impermanence does not make you a realized being, that you need other factors to support or other factors to be fully enlightened.
Then the tanda phone de chujan mata de kajing ma yimbi shir sien de la rangjing gi ta yang da song yore de la rangjing gi ta song ya de kajing ma sie de da mata wa sie de rangjing chik pa ma to rangjing kha kha ji yo ma re de rangjing chik yen on de di chane rangjing gi ta song yore.
So when we talk about these aggregates or the physical form or whatever physical form, the correct sign, this is the correct sign of essence, that understanding that aggregate is impermanence and it's momentary, then we realize that this is the correct sign of the essence itself. And the third one is correct sign of non-observation. So, to describe the correct sign of non-observation, as you have a lot of beaches in your country, you go to the sea, right, or sea or ocean. And especially when you go to the ocean in the night time, and if there is vapor in the sky, at first glance, you might feel like, oh, there is a smoke. But as you have the understanding that there is no fire beneath or under it, you come to realize that there is no fire, or that's not a smoke. That's not a smoke because there is no fire. When you have that understanding, or when you have that clear sign, then that we can describe it as the correct sign of non-observation. So, another example is, in the daytime, we can see the smoke clearly, but not the fire from the far. But at night, we can see the smoke clearly, but we see the fire clearly. So, there is another example, is that as the physic is our form, is the aggregates, that's not you, because the form is just a name that, sorry, I have to be a little clear. Let me find the word. Okay, because as if you say you, then the name or the clinging of I is not in you. That's why you and the clinging to I, you in the sense the 5 aggregates, and the I is the idea. These are the 2 separate things. That's why it doesn't make sense to say that you is I, or the form is I. It's clear? Yeah? Okay, thank you.
다때 가려서 걸 세디 봉원 추전 세디 가수 봉원데 송거요. 가수 봉원 세엔데라 다 가수 요선데나 봉원가 세나레 돈 소리 도도지나 zupontan shiba nimarto yoman. Sende chingwonde ngasu phongwonde chuchen songyor. Te jela ja ta chuchen sengwonde de ngasu jela shakayenda sejiri. Ndi tani ngasu kaje shakayenda sejiri.
So when we talk, then talk about our aggregates, we can we say there is 5 aggregates, but simply putting into understanding, we can say there is our body and there is our consciousness.
Ta choji tangda dagmede sidin ngasu phongwonde kosana da seji yomar da songyor.
So the statement of saying there is no I in your body is that as in your body there is nothing as such to say actually I.
Chedang jagar ke nalo ke chujo ke nalo la da yore songkan pe mangure. Yina da mere songkan te sanji chomdan di chakayore.
And generally in the teaching of Indian masters, there is an idea of saying that there is I, but the only one who says that there is no I is Buddha.
Ta ngasu te jang da se de kaniro samna ta to se de nga kibu shona samba. Ti kaula nga se semna hyarung do. Tene ji dochang do chong yona. Ai nga la dokcha se yongsare sambe kaula yo nga se semna leung do. O ti semna leung ti da se de chakayore.
So normally the idea of I is that we always aspire or we want to be happy. We carry that idea that we want to be happy. And when we see there is some sort of things which we don't like, then we again say that I don't want to experience it or I don't want to have it. We have that idea.
다 telā tāxia dhawa chīngwānda kērāngā ngā sē dā chānda yōba tē tānda mē tē lāwar. Kārī chīni manduk sē tīgā tēne phōngwa tē dāng dā nīpo chīk yīmbī tsā kīni manduk sē. Dō na phōngwa tē khurāngā dā yīmbā chīk tāni na dā sē tē manduk sē. Tēne kio dāng dā nī tātā tē yā mē bī sē sē tīgā kio lōk sē jā. Tele lokso phongwa seya ande dag seya ge yang phongwa lokso ja dag seya de lokso ja ne yo ta taba ni ya mandu se tende che ona phongwa yemba tang phongwa mayen be dag ni ge ka ya mandu se tende ya sona dag de yo samare ye son ote de song yo ro.
So now if we examine that idea, if there is I or no I, then if we say the body is I, then if we examine it, there is no I in the body attached to it itself. And if one says that these are separate, I is separate and the form is separate, body is separate, then again, if we just take a close look, then there is no word as such to say I without the body, and there is no sense of I, there is no sense of body without I.
다 가서 가르송 걸 세디 다 세야디 phongwu tang da pha takpa zamshik res. Hyaba shingona niya meba chik res.
So the idea of I is just given for the sake of name. And if we check, if we examine it, there is nothing that we can solidly find as this is I.
다 te pe rawu tang chi shena ta ngome ngama te so langi charkha hi te shi ya. Kare re sedi pe na kupa karbo chik da na po chik pha dram jang na ta te la kupa chawo la kre wa.
For example, if there is a two rope, one is white and one is black, and if we just combine them both, we come out with some different color, or we say the multicolored, or somewhere maybe stripe. We call it stripe, black and white combined. Yes.
다 샤파도 마시와 지금도는 요나 그바 타고 커셔서디 대체 연구를 대그바 타고래 됐으나 레탕거래 대 직된 그 땅거 저와 되니 나오지 진로 탑고요래.
So if we just normally ask someone to please bring me that stripe rope, then that person will go and bring that rope to us. And that's how we work.
내가 나서 가서 직된 라야 계랑 셀라운데 지금 상가 삼바지 레야 돼. 근데 계랑 파 계랑 설치 효다세요. 계랑 대워 임베 생원데 그 남사지 란자 초초도 득도 아주 용거래 마시 비까라.
So normally, if we talk with people, if I say, you come here, then you will come here. And how are you? And you will say, I'm fine. So this is how we interact in general.
다 해도 제오나 그바 타오세데 가완도 델라는 그바 가로치다 나고지 마도 요 말이 요나 그바 가로데리 요나 나고데리 근데 요데 타오세데 가레세 지 라오나 다 드럼장도 다파 따샤바 마도 요데 그바 나고지다 가로치 마도 타오세지다 동그 땅라 만도와 파혀 따샤바도 지금 레장도 삼바지 하고도 어 따때 다음에 그 깔아 빼 휴지 나랑 되긴 레탕게요.
So one says that to bring that stripe color rope. Now, if someone says something like that, we bring the multicolor rope to us. But that is only given for the sake of name or to understand only. Otherwise, if we just look at it, there is no one combined color actually. It's a separate color in its own. So that it's one of the great example to understand the selflessness of the nature.
다때 간디르세디 동그다네 ngaso 요선데라 죽당 히바니 마도 잠바시 요 말에 이나 죽당 히바니 냠도서 초작바텔라 되네 간사 다 세파 딱샤리.
And just like that, in general, we have a body and consciousness. But when we combine them or make a group of them, we give it a name of so-called I or me.
근데 제원데 베디다네 삼나다원데 지롱을 해야지 용도.
So when we see at this example, something comes in your mind, right?
ngaso 데레다 베나 손던도 지셔잖아. 그바카로데 나제 ngaso 주폰데체. 그바 나보데 나제 ngaso 시바데체. 다테니 서nyam도 초디게 점자디 그바카로 라고요바 나제 다 세데 간사 세데 nga 세데 코 세데오 데데도 차기요사레.
So just like that, the color white, for example, we can say color white is our body and the color black is our consciousness. When the color white and black combines, it becomes a striped color. Just like that, when the consciousness and the body combines, we call it I or me.
텐더위 다 maybe 따와티 장식 그 샘던데니 곰캬니 원솜도 또 소나 특별점은 돈은 덮고요.
So when we practice the nature of selflessness with combining with the compassion or the bodhicitta, then we can achieve the enlightenment or we can achieve the bhumis.
야, 다 저도 뒤서면도 되네. 저와 전화로나
So now we don't have that much of a time, so if you have question, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Khenpo La, for the teachings. I have a special question regarding the objects, because in prior teachings, I have learned that there must be a consciousness to recognize the objects. For example, when we look to the moon, we only recognize the moon because we have the consciousness. But what is when nobody looks to the moon? There's no consciousness to recognize the moon. Is the moon still there?
Titrava yakpore. Perna tela papi yod ngama banda that is nalola sonta mandava ni chakayore. Chik di chetam hawa tandor deva tigmen gatam tamhankan tesu tigmen se lama lamandu chetam hawa tandor deva tesu yurte ngana jini ngaso la ten thongshigi hiba chigi chokayore seni. Yinchik menchigi tani hiba yo margowa yurte ngana chabni tani yonkayore seni chiruk don se di kilankayore. Tani sem zamba dan omawa tesu songyona ngaso zugla soba chigi thongdugi andesu soson churwe wangin thongyongwa chigiri thongsha de yang 통시 그 나로고 희반 대랑 두도를 마도 디 희식이 희바 되면서는 파쇼고 열때 용거 요한 말이 손송거 열. 근데 지금 내가 대 소수 딱히제 되게 첨부를 나수 초원에 가려선 걸서디 조어디 특별 첨부 정원에 가려서는 가수 조어디 난거 요래. 얘나요 양 소수 양 딱히제 소수 다히 지원디 산지 좀던 데가 더샤 소소라 또네 송요레 데 소소 가렌 참그 요나요 데 고요 즉 데라 파차 요가 데니시는 소소 된 참용 그러 데 야근 케비 로라 데라 손선 이 차다 요레.
That's a great question, first of all. So, in the Arya land or the India, there have been a lot of masters, and as we discussed, there are 4 philosophical schools. In that, Vaivasika and Sautantrika from the Buddhism, they believe that object is already there, and because of the consciousness that we see object later on. The object is already there, and we have a consciousness, that's why we see there. But the Chittamatra and Madhyamika's point of view, they says that because of the consciousness that we see the object. So these are the 2 contradictions or the contradictory statement there. But as Buddha has stated, we see or we perceive things as per our consciousness, or we can say that as per our understanding or as per our view. So he asked you to question and see for yourself how you see those things.
Tani
I have a question to the mobile phone example and what Fleming said before. So let me just give a very simple example. You said you have a good phone, it's perfect, everything that you said before. And then I say, it's for my grandmother. And then you said, yes, it's excellent for my grandmother. And I say, no, it's not, because the only thing she wants to use it for is to talk on the phone. And then you said, yeah, but you say all the good things about it. And I say, but it costs $1,000. She just need a phone where she can talk. She don't need any apps. She don't need anything else. That was more or less what Fleming said. So my question is that a valid debate to have? Because it seems that we are talking about two completely different things. You're talking about a phone that is working perfectly, but I'm talking about a woman that only needs to talk on the phone. So is it a valid debate to talk like that with the example I gave? Or is it kind of invalid because we are talking about two different things?
Chitung.
텐데레 페나 둘로 약보다 둘로 약보 마인 바세디 지단이 직된 코로나 시에 요바 지그레 직직라 투니 시에 고레 군코 요바다 군코 메와 세테야 네탄 카가 지그레 비 둘로 보무 광고 말이 보무 둘로 벌 광고 요 말이 텐데 온데 약도 세야 군코 요메 세티 네탄 카가레 네 셰당 저버 저야 까블라 세티 찌당 약도 그래 마도 군코 요메 까세티 말이
So, in the normal world, we talk about also about the clothes. This is a good clothes or bad clothes. We say something like that, and there is and talking about you need or you don't need, and the object is good or bad is a completely different topic. So the point or the debate when we were having a conversation about the phone was about the quality of the object or the quality of the phone. So it was just like that. One last question.
I will translate. Question is about, in some previous lecture you told that karma is being degraded nowadays. But nowadays karma is like being degraded. Like degradation is taking place in nowadays. And what is the reason for it? And is it because of now there's more distractions and more entertainment and things like that? and what is the, like, what could this tendency come into, yeah? What is the tendencies about this degrading?
Okay. You're talking about the degradation of the time? Why is this happening?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Is it because of our karma or something else? You're asking that?
Yeah, maybe some reason for it.
A reason.
Tā ngā sū kārvā zāngwā nē kārvā ñāmbā lā lēv sīyé tē chū ñām lēng kā tāni samnā tāna tōkpan tōmbō kīyé tē hōmā māngā rē tēne mā ñōrō rō yō rē tsō tē tī tāni sōng yō rē tā tēne jikte rāng kā samnā tāna tāndā thinking yapo ya gen ro ya mo yo re ta ina ya che chena de la te ne ya nga sung kho yu ge zambi la den ra wo chi si ko la de so cho la gan ro ya ma o man na du cha cha ya ten ri yong ko re se ne so pa che ge yo re ti yen do kha wo chi re tenri yung de kanta kyang chi nyam ro yo wa chi dang du ro yo wa chi chak yo re de chi chane gyumsan chusho ne samna ta ya ge gyumsan de sanje chondan de dang le gen je wa hyuk chenpo yong ga de so ngona tani so so lam nyam le chi din je top tenri chak yo re teni de se rewa rang yinba rewa chong yinba teso kale sheni ji ya gen ro yo re tenri yin on de de ku ki ngama ga le to re dan khoyu se de ya gen ro da teni ma do chagan ro se de ngason zambi lang ge chapchal la ra li de ore sang ka du ne ko ge chapchal la 제땅 라 디 지마라 삼나야포 직땅네 오니 가레나 코리우티 베체 야포 직땅나 마도 되네 두차 차서 그래 데 가테 두차 차나 다 나라 계랑 잡아 되대 겸상 강한테니 세대리 되네 연데 되네 두차 차야 돼 가서 잡체 돼 따따 마도 비겸상 지마라 삼나 마땅 와지 단디 캡상 라라 삼나 따니 되네 다 만다 조타 소야 드천 소야 라 소바타 다 만다 마오 치온데 되네 디 저적 따니 디 마마 가라니 용고요 봐 종아라 용고요 봐 니타나 되네 더 같이 sork
So, from the aspect of Dharma practice, because in the previous time, or in the good times, there were lots of realization, and there were lots of realized master were there, and the realization was much easier to have. But later on, if you are talking about the normal world nowadays, then in a way it is upgrading through the scientific research and all. We have all the equipments, all the advanced technologies and all. But from the aspect of nature, from the aspect of the world itself, in some ways we are destroying our world, we are destroying our nature. So in that way, we are degrading for sure, and we can see that. In the time of Buddha, and the lot of surrounding, or the lot of people around the Buddha who had the great karmic force because of their practice and because of their strong karma from the past, they were easily enlightened or they enlightened quickly. But later on, the people or the middle people somewhere, they slowly and gradually had some realization. So in terms of that, that's how it came. And if you are talking about the environmental perspective, then it's mostly depend on our action, where to lead. If you want to go up or go down, it heavily depends on our action. If we keep on making companies and keep on destroying all the nature and substance, then there is no way. We definitely go down. But if we think for the long term and act consciously, then there is chance to go upward as well.
다더니 퍼센트와 karma 정아 로송 되니 삼장나 말도야 지마 추천 요동데 그 추천 요동데 야 올약하면서리.
So as we have already passed 15 minutes, so this is it for today. Thank you so much.
되니 지마테스 셈나나 똑바 요바로 지 저거야 되니 정나 셈나라 잡득 나로 시장나 땡가서 야 나년 전에 척으려 양한테서 깔라 저 척으려.
So if you have further question or if you have some question in your mind, so please do keep in your mind for now, and while we are having class the day after tomorrow, we can discuss on it.
소노한데
탐제세바니 탐네 니베라나 방제네 제가 나세 발로한 투바에 세베 솔렌도 돌워
쇼 전주 센조
렘보체 마제 바나 지저체 제바 냠바 메바 코네 공도